World War I? Well, that was pretty bad. But World War II? It's the reason we know how the world ends today. But I'm not gonna tell you what happened in World War II. We just covered the First World War. Give me a break, man. Come on, let's touch some grass. Psst. Hey kid, this painting is called The March on Rome, my most prized museum exhibit, because this is where the story of World War II begins. Take a closer look. Come on, don't be shy. Hey. Bye bye! Historically Facts, Part 18. Oh my god, are you okay? My name is Italian Jojo Oliver. What's your name? What a nice name. Anyway, bad time to jump out of a painting, buddy. Things ain't how they used to be around here in 1922. Let me explain. Turns out, the Great War really wasn't that great. And specifically Italy, after the First World War, was in a rough shape. They joined the First World War because they were promised all these juicy lands if they did so. But turns out Britain and France kinda lied to us Italians. At the Treaty of Versailles, the agreement that ended the war, we only received a teeny tiny amount of what was promised to us, which made the winners not at all feel like winners. Some of the local Marios wrote it off as a minor nuisance, but the Luigis? Those Italian nationalists took the betrayal to heart and felt humiliated by the Entente powers, to the point they called their victory in World War I Vittoria Mutilata. A mutilated victory. Might sound a bit extreme or childish, but it kinda made sense that they were this butthurt. They sank their whole economy, all their men and trade into the First World War effort, because they thought they would be heavily rewarded for it. But when they didn't get all of that land, all they were left with was hyperinflation, a whole lot of debt, and a couple dead husbands. By the way, get off the floor, man. Look around you, amico mio. Unemployment, political instability, factories occupied by unions. Things around here are going heavily downhill. And I guess what's going to happen any second now is the reason that magical painting brought you to specifically 1922. Even though the big war is not going to happen for another 17 years. See that fat guy? No, the one without the hat. That is Benito Mussolini. Once a socialist and anti-war guy, during the First World War he felt the war was actually necessary so Italy could become stronger. So he became a pro-war guy, which was highly unpopular among the socialists. So he got thrown out of the group. That's it, I'm starting my own thing. And he did. It's called fascism. A word your modern politics seems loaded with, yet most people don't even know what it truly is. Also, why is your Twitter called X now? Nani? Dude, I hate to be like this, but I have to tell you about the sponsor of this video. Happy birthday, America! 250 years old already, huh? Well, that calls for a pretty massive celebration. And what better place to celebrate than in World of Warships? The game is currently running its special 250th US anniversary event, where players can battle through history, command iconic American warships, and unlock exclusive anniversary content inspired by the events that shaped the nation. And just look at it! The visuals are gorgeous, featuring highly detailed ships, realistic water effects, dynamic weather, and battlefields inspired by real-world locations. Whether you prefer destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, or submarines, there is a playstyle for everyone. And best of all, it's completely free to play. During the event, you will progress through a unique historical journey, unlocking artwork, stories, commemorative rewards, and special anniversary content simply by playing battles. It's a fun way to experience naval history while blowing up enemy ships, which is obviously the most important part. And if you are a new or returning player, use my link below and enter code USA250 for a bunch of bonus goodies to help kickstart your fleet, including premium time, in-game currency, ships, and many other exclusive rewards. The event runs from June 17th through July 15th, so if you have ever wanted to command some of history's most legendary warships, now is the perfect time to jump in. Download World of Warships today. Who knows, it might just become your next favorite game. So, what is fascism really? It's a political ideology built around one main idea. The nation comes before everything. before your political party, before your personal freedoms, before your opinions, and before even yourself. According to fascism, people fighting each other over class, wealth, or politics only makes the country weaker. In fact, Mussolini thought Italy had become weak because everybody was too busy arguing and protesting instead of working together for the nation. So his solution was basically, stop fighting each other. We are all Italians. Now, on paper, fascism sounds kinda wholesome. But there is one teeny tiny little problem. Who actually decides what's best for the nation? Yeah, this guy. Fascists believed democracy was weak because politicians spent too much time debating things instead of actually doing things. There were too many elections, too many parties, and too many old dudes yelling in parliament. Instead, fascism believed the country needed one strong leader who could just take control and fix everything quickly. So far, fascism doesn't seem too bad. If anything, it seems like calling someone a fascist might actually be a compliment. But that's because you're not looking at the fine print. Because this also far seems somewhat fine, until it turns out your leader is actually insane. Now, remember those factory occupations and communist movements I mentioned earlier? A lot of Italians were terrified of communism at the time. Like, genuinely terrified. Russia had already gone communist a few years earlier, and many rich people thought Italy was next. So when Mussolini showed up saying things like, "I will restore order, stop the communists, and make Italy great again," a lot of people started supporting him, especially rich businessmen, nationalists, war veterans, and people who were just tired of all the chaos. And this is where fascism starts to show its cracks. See, when Mussolini said, "Let's all unite for the nation," that sounded nice, but what if somebody disagrees? What if somebody says, "Actually, I don't think uniting under one guy is a good idea, because if that guy's ill-intended, we are all screwed." Well, according to fascism, that thought train is problematic. The nation is supposed to be united after all. So under fascism, people who disagree start looking less like political opponents and more like enemies. Pretty quickly, Mussolini's idea of national unity starts looking a lot less like wholesome teamwork and a lot more like, agree with me, or else. And the else are the black shirts. They were Mussolini's elite group, who attacked socialist newspapers, broke up strikes, and intimidated Mussolini's opponents. And the Italian government was so weak at this point that nobody really stopped those bullies. Which brings us to October 1922. The March on Rome. Thousands of the black shirts gathered and marched together towards Rome. Not to take over just yet, it was mainly a show of force to intimidate the government, which they really did. The liberal Italian government panicked and wanted to call in the army to show they were even stronger than the fascist army. All they needed to issue the order was for the Italian king to approve the military action. But he didn't. At that point, the government collapsed. The king wanted to avoid bloodshed, so he called for Mussolini to appoint him as the prime minister. Which actually took a while, since Mussolini didn't even participate in the march. Yeah, he was chilling in Milan, kinda just eyeing where things ended up going. So he hurried over, took the title, and fascism became a very real national ideology. Over the next decade, Mussolini concentrated more and more power. He came to rule Italy as its unquestioned dictator and styled himself Il Duce, aka the leader. He also changed the world map a little bit, as he officially made Vatican City a country, and gave them tons of money in return for Catholic support. So hey, that's a fun fascist fact. And he also conquered Ethiopia, which was essentially poor people with swords and a few guns, versus 800 tanks, airplanes, and 330 tons of horrific mustard gas that killed armies, civilians, and water supplies. A completely one-sided battle for sure, but to the Italian nationalists, absolute proof that fascism was definitely going to work out. The Italians also decided to occupy Albania to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea. Now, not to be that kind of guy, but since I am here with a white shirt and you are completely white, it's probably time for you to go before we start the shirt race war. Oh, but before you go, here, a sticker of approval. May the Italian JoJo gods be with you. Bye, my friend! Hello again. Did you like my painting? Yeah, they always react like that. World War II still hasn't happened. In fact, we are only in 1922. So why did I push you all the way into fascist Italy? Well, because history is kinda like a domino chain. And Mussolini? He is one of the first dominoes, but he is not the biggest one. Watch your head. Du Hund? Well, this is awkward. My name is Bear Oliver, and let me guess, the Italian guy already explained fascism? Perfect, that saves me like 5 pages of dialogue. Anyway, Germany was basically having the same problem as Italy. But instead of being winners that felt like losers, they were losers that felt like ultra losers. Unlike Italy, Germany wasn't upset because they didn't get enough. They were upset because they got stuck with the biggest bill imaginable. Roughly $5 to $10 trillion in today's money. On top of that, they lost these territories, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, reduced their army to just 100,000 men, weren't even allowed to have an air force, and were forced to watch our Delta Heist video 3 times per day as punishment for being a bad boy. Needless to say, the Germans were not having a wunderbar time. Suddenly, a lot of Germans started looking for somebody to blame. See that angry guy over there? That is Adolf Hitler, a failed artist and Europe's next big headache. He fought in World War I, somewhat was a surprisingly brave soldier, running as a trench messenger, which earned him 2 medals and 2 injuries. When he was laying blindfolded in bed, recovering from his second injury sustained from mustard gas, he finally heard the news. Germany had surrendered. Hitler was absolutely devastated and furious. Like many radical German soldiers, he refused to believe the German military had actually lost on the battlefield. So he started to give speeches about it. Lots of speeches. He joined a small political party, took it over and transformed it into the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Or as normal people call it, the Nazi Party. No, they weren't actually socialists. Despite the name, the Nazis hated socialism, hated communism, and spent a lot of their time beating up socialists. Now, before you think Hitler was just a German Mussolini, he kinda was, but with one very important difference. While Mussolini mostly cared about the nation, Hitler cared about the nation and race. He became obsessed with the idea that Germany's problems weren't just caused by bad politicians, but by entire groups of people, especially Jews. This is probably the fascism people mean when they call you a fascist for disliking the color purple. Anyway, while Hitler was busy giving speeches, which he was extremely good at, Germany was busy falling apart. So Hitler looked over to his neighbors down below and decided to copy their homework. He gathered a bunch of supporters, marched into a beer hall, which is probably why we are here, and tried to overthrow the German government while downing some Jägermeister. Unsurprisingly, it failed, and he got thrown into prison and his party got banned. But then 1929 happened. The Great Depression hit everyone, but Germany got hit the hardest. Suddenly the guy over there screaming angrily at the local Jews didn't seem so crazy. People lost everything due to the economical chaos. And in desperate times like these, Hitler stopped sounding crazy to a lot of desperate Germans. As Germany's economy got worse, Hitler's popularity got better. And in 1933, he finally gathered enough support to become Chancellor of Germany. And he instantly did all the stuff that Mussolini did. He banned opposition power, made the place a dictatorship, and named himself the German version of Il Duce, Führer. Now, remember that giant list of things Germany wasn't allowed to do after World War I? Hitler looked at that list and basically treated it as a checklist. No army? Let's build one. No Air Force? Let's build one. Stay out of the Rhineland? Let's build one. I mean, let's just put soldiers there just for good measures. France and Britain saw what Hitler was doing and did exactly nothing about it. Yeah, shocker, right? That lack of response made Hitler cocky. If he can put troops in the Rhineland and not get punished for it, why can't he also put troops in, let's say, Austria, reuniting the German people? That was a big no-no for the Entente powers. So they ultimately decided to give Hitler a very firm talk. They told him what he was doing was uncalled for, so Hitler sincerely apologized, promised to never do it again, and Chamberlain's appeasement policy saved the world from a second World War. Daddy, I want Czechoslovakia. Damn it! After annexing Austria, Hitler set his sights on Czechoslovakia. There was a large German minority inside the country, and Hitler demanded that they should unite with Germany. However, this territory, the Sudetenland, was also vital for Czechoslovakia's defenses. Hitler and Mussolini met with Chamberlain and the French Prime Minister Daladier, and concluded that Hitler may take those territories if he promises to leave the rest of Czechoslovakia alone. Hitler, being a very trustworthy guy, promised to definitely not maybe perhaps take it. Czechoslovakia suddenly lost all their defenses to the Germans without having anything to say about it. And Chamberlain's appeasement policy saved the Daddy, I ate Czechoslovakia. Damn it! Okay, listen up, you little shit. If you take one more piece of land, me and France are definitely going to perhaps maybe supposedly declare war on you. And World War II will start. I'm hungry. By 1939, war loomed all over Europe. In fact, you could argue it had already started. Not in Germany, not in Poland, but in Spain. A failed military coup in 1936 had spiraled into a brutal civil war between the nationalists and Republicans. And before anyone knew it, half of Europe had picked a side. Germany and Italy backed the nationalists, the Soviet Union backed the Republicans. Though the Germans and Soviets were actively trying to kill each other in southern Europe, meanwhile back at home, the two nations signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which established a 10-year no-attacking-each-other pact between the two countries. Secretly, it also included a segment that divided the entirety of Eastern Europe, from Finland to Romania, between the two states, in case, you know, they decided to take that for some reason. Daddy? I want Poland. Oh, for the love of... Okay, mein Freund, gotta stop you there. First of all, I am way over the legal limit of what you should be allowed to drink, so take the sticker of being a certified drinking pal. And secondly, there's one more country that made up the excess for a trifecta, you know? Okay, so basically what happened was... Well, that was disappointing. If that wasn't a cliffhanger, I don't know what to tell you. I personally would never cliffhanger you, because, you know, I have morals. Anyway, look at that beautiful painting. It's small, I know, but not each painting story has to be big. I mean, check it out yourself. Whoops. Oh hey, Doodlie-chan, my name is Oliver-san, my favorite anime is One Piece, and welcome aboard the Mukden Express. I'm now going to talk normal. I know you were deep into 1939, but let's rewind a bit to 1931. Unlike Germany, Japan wasn't angry because of the Versailles treatment, and unlike Italy, Japan wasn't trying to recreate the Roman Empire. Japan had a different problem. The country was rapidly industrializing, building factories, ships, and an enormous military, but realized rather late that they didn't have the resources to feed any of it. So, naturally, they resourced it from their neighbors by invading them. Yeah, that idea was surprisingly popular at the time. Now, before you invade somebody, it's generally considered polite to have an excuse. Fortunately, the Japanese military happened to find one. Or more accurately, they made one. Uh-oh, guess that's their excuse. Looks like somebody blew up the railway. Though it was most likely the Japanese themselves. Japan, though, accused the Chinese and then threw their army at them. Nevertheless, Japan used the incident as an excuse to invade Manchuria, which was a large chunk of northeastern China, and, to say it softly, took over the place. The Japanese, however, wanted to expand more, so after another convenient incident at the Marco Polo Bridge, the Japanese launched a second invasion against China, where they captured the biggest Chinese cities, and shortly after the capital at the time, Nanking, where they did such horrible things to the Chinese that if I would explain them in detail, the YouTube senpais would instantly ban our channel. And yeah, Doodlie-chan, that's about all you need to know before the Second World War starts. Sorry about the bumpy train ride. I really like One Piece, by the way. Take this sticker, and I got to tell you what happens in chapter 4092. So basically Luffy gets really strong, and then he kills all the enemies. Hey, and with that, you are finally ready, my friend. World War II. The video is finally happening. I can't believe it, guys. We waited so long for this moment. Alright, so all you have to do now is jump in this painting in the middle of your screen. You can click it and it will take you straight to the beginning of the war. Unless it's not there, of course. Does that mean I promised to not leave you on a cliffhanger, yet I did? Well, if the worst person in history is allowed to lie, surely the second worst person in history is allowed to lie too. Hey, see you soon, my friend.